You may speak now, Richard.
Yeah, come on, Richard. Timing's everything.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, once again for tuning in and listening. This is Beyond the Matrix with Richard Carey, and I have finally returned right on time, per usual. And this is TruthCat Radio at truthcatradio.com, and please do help us out. We have Graham Sutherland from Delete the Beast. TruthCat Radio's own Graham Sutherland, who's going to be joining us today on Beyond the Matrix. So please do stick around. We're going to discuss a lot of various current events.
Sorry for such a horrible segue there, Richard. But are you guys all excited for Richard Carey coming up right now? Because he's here. We're getting ready. Well, and now, here we are. What? Oh, wait. Come on. Richard Carey.
Thank you. And this is Beyond the Matrix with Richard Carey. We have Graham Sutherland, host of Delete the Beast, with us tonight.
Tuning in and this is Beyond the Matrix with Richard Carey. And
I'm here at the delay.
I am as well. We may have Stephen D. Kelly joining in, and we have some Sonic antics to start the crazy hijinks, as always, here on
There's a glitch in the Matrix, Richard.
From Delete the Beast.
There's a glitch in the Matrix.
Graham Sutherland is going to be joining us today.
I really sound terrible on radio. Wow.
Oh my gosh, Richard, I'm sorry. I wasn't muted. I'm sorry. Listen, you guys, I completely forgot. We are simulcasting on Wolf Spirit. Hi, everybody on Wolf Spirit. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you to JP and everyone at Wolf Spirit Radio. We do appreciate the simulcast, and thank you to all you Wolf Spirit Radio listeners out there as well.
And I apologize for having the sound on in the background and not having muted. So carry on.
When does that start from?
It actually starts right now. It starts. They do the 4 hours. They start the simulcast right after you, Graham. They wait for you to get over, and then they turn it on. No, I'm kidding. No, Graham. It's just that they're regular. They don't have anything scheduled right after you, so that's why they pick us up.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Hey, that's a good idea. A bit of caring and sharing.
Sure. Well, JP is a major. Where would we be without JP? We'd be in bad shape, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And with that, Stephen, we should mention to our listeners that we do require, their support to keep everything running here.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we do take euros and pounds also, guys. Oh, hey, Lee, shout out to Lee. Hi, Lee. I just see she tuned in. I'm looking at the people that tune in. We've got these listeners in Canada, Ottawa, precisely, and I'm pretty sure I know who it is, but boy, are they loyal listeners. I got to tell you.
Yeah. I wonder if they would buy me a BMW for my birthday. I'd like a BMW.
Hey now. How many cars have you got, Graham? If you have a boat and a house and a car and a big old giant woodpile, what do you need a BMW for?
Well, it's just somewhere to put my Wellingtons.
But everyone, please help out with anything that you can. Yeah, we take any forms that you can deliver as far as currencies. I don't think we take Bitcoin yet, but I did hear that they're like a big bubble.
We do take Bitcoin. It's just that the wallet that I've been using, I don't know how to get into it right now. If I could figure out how to get into it, then we'd be good. And that really sucks because that money, that little bit I had like $40 in Bitcoin. It's probably like $1,000 right now.
Wow.
You never know. Uh-oh, did we just lose somebody? Hang on here. Richard, we lost Richard? I don't believe it. It's your show, Richard. Don't be leaving.
Don't be disappearing.
Yeah, he's back, I think. Are you back? Richard? Uh-oh. I'm going to have to screw around. Okay, Richard, I'm going to have to hang up and keep calling you until it works.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we'll get it.
Yeah, don't like.
We'll get it. Yeah, I know. You're like, no way, I'm going to carry this show. Oh, jeez. Come on, Richard. All right. This computer's being difficult. Come on. Wonder why it's not bringing this. Are you back yet? You got audio?
Oh, man.
Come on, type something. Type something that lets you there. Okay. Is it working? Yeah, he's having some issues here. Come on, Richard. You got all these people listening. You got to get this working. Come on. Oh, Richard. I'm going to assume he's having some Skype. Okay, Richard, you're going to have to reboot your Skype. I'm pretty sure that's what it needs to do. Yeah, that's what he's doing right now.
Occasionally you've got to do that, yeah.
Yeah, it shows him offline right now, so he's probably rebooting.
Yeah.
Wow. So, guys, I got to tell you, there was a big development in the internet radio business. One of the biggest names in internet radio has had to kind of go into hiding because he's got the government after him.
Wow.
Yeah, that would be Sean David Morton. And he, of course, is a big deal over on Revolution Radio, which, of course, is the number one thing going on out there. Are you? But yeah, that's going on right now, and that's kind of oh, there he is. He just came on green just now, this second. So that's kind of a big deal because it's certainly going to disrupt the internet radio as we know it, and we don't really know. We don't know where he is or what. Oh, he's trying to call in. Look at this. Okay.
Oh,
hang on, Rich. Add to call. I'll get you in here. Jeez. I guess it doesn't work if you were both trying to call at the same time. All right, here we go. This should work. And our show, our Donbass show didn't happen today.
Oh.
I don't know what happened. He didn't show up. And I saw on Facebook he made some comment that basically said Elvis has left the building. I don't know what that means.
It sounds like he's packing in.
Sounds like he's getting ready to run off somewhere, and if that means he's getting the hell out of Donbass, maybe, or who knows.
I'm back. That's very cryptic, Stephen. Yeah, when you mentioned earlier, that's a very cryptic, brief message.
Yeah, Elvis has left the building. Well,
yeah.
So, needless to say, we knew that he was having issues, and we knew that he was having some health problems, and that he was. I mean, my God, you're in a war zone. Who knows what's going on from one day to the next? But he could have gone and moved to a different location or something. But at the very least, though, I would have liked to have a little bit of information. It could be also that he didn't want to say anything because he doesn't want the NSA to know where he's going. You know how that is. Yeah, it's kind of like Sean David Morton is probably not going to contact any of us because the NSA will be able to track him, figure out where he is. He can't do his show because then they'll be able to trace the ISP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no matter where he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, Stephen, I didn't really have too much of a single topic for the show other than
you
really
suck. You suck.
No, wait. Other than actually discussing about how it's been completely viral now, how CNN has admitted to lying about Russia.
New York Times and Washington Post, I think, also had to come out and say essentially the same thing, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, we had this viral video. It was like an undercover sting operation from Project Veritas with a hidden camera talking to John Bonifield, a senior producer at CNN, admitting to several beliefs that are in direct conflict with the official CNN narrative that Trump is colluded with Russia. Russia's been interfering with the election, all that sort of thing, and he's just basically admitting, I mean, that it's just for ratings, that there's no evidence about, Russia doing anything, or else, it would have been all over the place. They would have used the hell out of it if it were there, and it's like 8 minutes long. I even provided the link for it, but yeah, it's got a lot of good clips of this guy admitting, to all of this. But I mean, some of the specific ones here. Let's see. Bonifield expressed clear doubts that there's a fire behind the Russia smoke, stating, "I haven't seen any good enough evidence." Well, that's the way they phrased it here, to show that the president committed a crime. He also confirmed suspicions that CNN staff is ideologically biased against Trump, stating, I know a lot of people don't like him, and they'd like to see him get kicked out of office. So we've had him quoted saying that. Bonifield even further confirmed CNN's bias against the president, stating, "I think the president is probably right to say, like, look, you are witch hunting me. You have no real proof." Bonifield expressed that Russia has been great for CNN's ratings, and that orders from CEO Jeff Zucker himself have directed CNN to pursue Russia's leads at the expense of other stories. Bonifield states, and the CEO of CNN said in our internal meeting, he said, "Good job, everybody, covering the climate accords, but we're done with it. Let's get back to Russia." So, and then another comment he's quoted on saying, "It's mostly bullshit right now. Like, we don't have any giant proof. If it was something really good, it'd leak," with regard to Russian, any sort of evidence regarding Russia. It's quite a lot of footage. It's pretty damning. I mean, I don't know. I think that we should make a big deal out of it. It seems like, because some people seem to really need to see more discrediting of the corporate media. They don't want to believe they've been lied to for a whole generation. There are some people out there.
You want to know what I'm going to do tonight, Richard? How I'm going to make a big deal out of it? I'm going to basically say that there's only two sides in this game: the side that supports pedophiles and the side that is against pedophiles. And that means if you support Israel, you're pro-pedophile. If you support war against Assad, you're pro-pedophile. If you're anti-Trump, you're pro-pedophile. And I could go on and on and on, because that's really what it's going to boil down to. Because if you're on the wrong side of this thing, there's only these people that, like, for instance, if you're a soldier and you're going to the Middle East because you think that you need to follow orders and fight against Syria, you're supporting a pedophile. You might as well be a pedophile. And that's the way I see it. If you're on the wrong side of this issue, you're no better than a pedophile. And that's what people have to understand. So all you people at CNN, you're pedophiles. All you people that watch CNN and believe it, you're pedophiles. BBC. All you people that support Hillary Clinton, you're fucking pedophiles. You all deserve what pedophiles deserve. And that's what it's going to come down to. World War III is going to be us against the pedophiles. And you better decide whether you're a pedophile or not, because that's going to be the two sides that are going to be fighting this next war. And guess what? Putin's going to be fighting against the pedophiles. So that should tell you what side you want to be on.
There was this one story, I only saw it covered on a couple of independent media outlets. I know David Icke had a link to it, but it was on something called Neon Nettle, and also in the Internet Post, which seemed like a pretty decent site. But 238 people arrested in a major Hollywood pedophile ring bust. They're saying they won't disclose any of the names, but some of these are household names. Could seriously impact reputation.
I got a good one for you.
Profits.
Here's one. How about, all right, Corey Feldman. He said that he wants to report major Jewish pedophile movie director and producer in Hollywood. He doesn't want, but he says he can't say who it is. It's Rob Reiner. It's Meathead from All in the Family.
Okay, that's one of the names then.
That's one of the names. Yeah, there you go. Rob Reiner is a pedophile.
Wow.
Oh, rush of them though, isn't there?
Yeah, they're all pedophiles.
Yeah, they are.
But 238, Stephen. In this.
Damn well they didn't get any big ones.
Self-perpetuating, eh?
Yeah. Well, you can't be one of those. You can't be in the Satan Club if you're not going to be a pedophile.
Yeah, that's right.
But usually you'd see more people covering something like this. It seems like these really get swept under the rug. It's not even that covered in the independent media. I mean, I don't know. People shun away from pedophile topics for whatever reason.
That's kind of why I want to work on this tonight, because look at even you guys tonight. We're talking about Russia. We're talking about missiles. We're talking about all these strategic political things, when yet the bottom line is always the same damn thing. It's pedophiles, and no one wants to talk about it. And I'll tell you something else. They're making ready to go to war with Iran. They're doing everything they can. Obviously, they want to take out Assad, but naturally, they're trying to bring Iran in. They want to take out Iran. Iran's problem is Islam, and Islam's problem is pedophilia. And so, basically, the Satanists that set up the Abrahamic religions plagued every single one of them with pedophilia. That's why when you look at the Catholic Church, we're associated with pedophilia. You look at Islam, it's associated with pedophilia.
Big time.
Big time. And don't tell me that Judaism is associated with pedophilia. I mean, what perversity is not associated with Judaism?
Yeah, it's in a Talmud, isn't it?
Hell yeah. I mean, you know, it's all over the place. And if you look at the sex trade, you look at the organ, black market organ harvesting and all this, it's all the same place.
Oh, yeah, I find that really disturbing.
It seems to me that when they set up, you know, it's almost like when these religions were set up so long ago, they were doomed from the start because they had this crap in them from day one. And, you know, be it either celibacy or this underage sex crap. And it gives each one of us something to hate the other one for. So we're going to go, in other words, it's like the Iranians, we could help them and try and say, hey guys, we want to work with you so that there is no war and we can have peace, but you got to drop the damn pedophilia. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like they can't do it. That's why we have to have World War III, because it's going to be the pedophiles fighting other pedophiles.
It's a central part of their worship.
Yep.
It's an essential central part. These demonic gods demand blood.
Well, so what about all these American soldiers and British soldiers and coalition soldiers that are out there killing for pedophiles?
I know, that's the tragic bit.
Every single one of these governments, I mean, the British government is practically synonymous with pedophilia. Obviously, the American government has become synonymous with pedophilia.
Well, it's one major way they can blackmail everyone to keep them all under control.
It's beyond.
Right?
It's not. Yeah, that's just one of the little bonuses. But the bottom line, when we get down to it, is that this is the guts. This is the fuel that keeps the satanic motor running. It's the whole reason for existence, because it's collecting that loosh that they use to feed those demons. It's all about that loosh, and the best loosh comes from children. Ultimately, that's what it's all about. And this shit goes back to hell. It goes back to Adam and Eve. It's been going on that long. And we're now getting a chance to fight against it and do something about it, because we have the internet, and we can all okay, hey, all because of the internet, suddenly all these Earth humans can get together and go, gee, we're being ruled by pedophiles. You think at any time in the last 10,000 years that all the people on Earth got together and realized that the fucking pedophiles are running the Earth? I mean, could you imagine what it was like before the flood? You ever read the book of Enoch, they'll tell you why the Earth got flooded is because of the shit that they were doing. Fucking animals, fucking children, et cetera, et cetera. That's what the book of Enoch says. It says the flood came to wash away the iniquity of the things that they were doing.
Well, we'll hear accusations of this being very prevalent and in all different regions, really. We've heard about the Vatican singled out. We've heard about Hollywood, Washington. We've heard about, the UK's
parliament. A common denominator, though. You know, there's a common denominator there. Mm-hmm. It's just same damn thing. You know, because Vatican hasn't been around that long. They didn't invent this stuff, right? And look who's running the Vatican right now, a Jesuit. And who invented the Jesuits? Remember? Who invented the Jesuits? Who created the Jesuits? Do you know, Graham?
Some guy called Alfonso, was it? No.
All right, just short answer, it's the Jews. The Jews created the Jesuits.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. They created the Jesuits to infiltrate the church.
Yes.
Which was what they did back then.
Yes.
And so, yeah, obviously, everything is infiltrated. Everything is infiltrated. But that's the nature. That's how it works. Anyway. But yeah, it's that common denominator. And, I'll tell you, though, it's like, that's the thing is, you're right, Richard, the pedophilia thing is the biggest weapon we have. It's the biggest club that we have. And you're right. They don't like hearing it. That's why I'm not on press TV anymore, because I kept bringing up the pedophilia and they got tired of it.
Yep.
Got to be a little embarrassing when their prophet is having sex with a 9-year-old.
Yes.
So is that going to change? No. I could go to the Iranians right now and say, hey guys, I'd love to negotiate for you, but you know what? this whole bocce boy thing and underage marriage thing and all that crap, you're screwed as long as that's going on. And they say, you're the great Satan, you do it too. Well, it's like, no shit, we're in a war against the same damn people.
And the other point I made earlier about a lot of the independent media even staying away from it. I was mentioning to Graham earlier, a lot in the independent media will stay away from the chemtrail topic for one reason or another. But this pedophile topic is also something that even in the independent media, a lot of people just don't want to. Yeah, they don't want to cover it very much. Like you mentioned your experiences. You think they just cringe too much. They don't want their audiences to. Yeah, that's just a level they don't want to take it to, right?
Yeah, but ultimately they're bosses. It's their bosses, all of them, right? And when you say independent media, it's like, think of for a second who you're talking about. Name some names. Which independent media won't talk about it?
Oh, no, I'm just thinking of individuals, what they'll usually...
You mean people that aren't on TruthCat?
Right, yeah, just people I may have had as guests or have been interviewed on other shows or stations. Yeah, not really entire stations I wasn't really referring to, nothing really that big. But because, at that level, you don't really get much of any coverage, though, of these sort of things. But, I mean, of people who are rather well known, like David Icke, he'll cover the pedophile thing a lot. But then a lot of people do try to discredit him. They've been trying that since probably, I think, the early 90s, is when he was first really digging into a lot of information. Do you credit most of what he researches, and most of I don't know, what do you think of David Icke, Stephen?
David Icke, let me see. He's a soccer player who injured himself, who took a job on a TV station, who had some ridiculously woke up experience, which to me sounds like a hallucination, which is incredibly not credible. And now he talks about crazy things. You know what else? When he came here to America and he was only in my hometown, not too far away, he made no effort to come and see me, even though I'm one of the people that he quotes on his his show. So in other words, he's a talking head. He's not real. Him and his buddy Richie Allen, they make a lot of money, but you know what? They're in it for the money. David Icke takes in millions of dollars, pounds, euros, whatever, when he travels, and I don't know. I'm sure he does what he does, and he's like a lot like the other guy, Alex Jones. He serves a purpose. However, he's working for somebody.
Yeah. Richie Allen is very much seems like a gatekeeper. A lot of issues.
Oh, big time. Richie Allen's a gatekeeper.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't. He's very cautious about even criticizing Israel all that much, for that matter. Certainly won't touch the topic of Jewish power very much. But even just on issues like 9/11, he'll be very conservative about. He believes a lot of the official stories, a lot of the Muslim bashing, but most surprisingly the Trump bashing he's on board with. And lately I had to tune out, because he's totally anti-Trump.
The biggest clue that he's a gatekeeper is he hasn't had me on his show. All right? I've been on Richie Allen twice.
A long time ago you were, yeah.
Twice I was on Richie Allen, and each time he went out of his way to find the most ridiculous photo of me he could to put up. You know what I mean? Seriously, he searched my Facebook for the most unflattering photo, something with my hair down all over the place, you know, red eyes, high, whatever, something like that. It's like, really, dude, that's the picture you choose? You know? So yeah, people like that, they're gatekeepers. And again, it's the same thing with Alex Jones. He hasn't had me on his program either, you know, or neither has Caravan to Midnight or any of these other big networks, and it's because they are gatekeepers.
Yeah.
A lot of the history you gentlemen were discussing earlier could be a little more appealing for my listeners. You know, I mean, how a lot of this, you know, originated, how, you know, a lot of this has been going on in different forms for quite a while now, you know. I know, well, both you gentlemen have quite a few years on me and have studied history a bit more than I, and even on the spiritual side, which can be relevant to a lot of it.
Hang on a second here, dude. You're 40. How the hell old are you, Graham? You're not that old.
56, 57.
All right. You're my age. You're closer to my age. Damn, you look good for your age, dude. Wow, me too, huh? Come on, this is where you say you do too, huh?
Yeah, you look fantastic.
I don't look a day. I don't look a day over 59, huh?
You obviously get a lot of fruit in your diet and stuff.
Well, I wish I could say that's true, but I just, you know, what can I say? It's actually, Graham, it's all that energy stuff I do. All right. I tell you about it, but no, seriously, I had a full body scan that came up 0, and that's like impossible because I used to smoke cigarettes and everything. So, you know, that's kind of like that healing crap. It sort of makes everything clean, rejuvenates you, if you will.
Yeah, Graham, I would like to just fully take advantage of, you know, you being a guest on my show here and also having Stephen on. Well, what would you like to discuss and maybe also have Stephen comment on as well?
Well, I want to know Graham's secret to youth, Graham. Or I know, is this picture 10 years old? Is that what it is? What?
No, that picture is within the last 3 months.
Holy crap. You know, you realize, you look at your face right here next to Richard. You guys you'd be the same age. You know what I'm saying? Richard, come on. Look at this.
Yeah, I'm sure we would hang out together.
Yeah, yeah.
But
anyway, sorry, Richard.
I don't worry about. I try not to worry too much about stuff, Steve, because I think worry and stress are killers.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. And I'll tell you, Graham. You know, I've been self-employed now for 20-something years, and when you do that, and I think you're self-employed too, right? So that's what it is.
1982.
Yeah. So, and you know, this is a lesson for you, Richard. Is when you stop getting a paycheck, it takes about a year to get used to that, making your own money, because, and you get a lot of stress having to worry about it. But what you find out is that you don't get the stress stops after about a year. It stops, and what they say is entrepreneurs don't get sick, and the reason why entrepreneurs don't get sick is because they don't have the stress. They know how to deal with it, right? So it's like, you know, you're right, Graham. I mean, I used to have a lot of stress when I paid bills and stuff, but you learn to manage that stress. And I'll tell you, I look at a lot of guys that are younger than me that are fat, bald, gray hair, wrinkles, everything else. They look like crap. I'm like, holy, you know, and I think it's their jobs that are doing it, huh?
Yeah, jobs, stress, shit diet, all of the above.
Drinking too much, maybe smoking. Who knows?
Smoking like fish.
Oh, a woman that gives them stress.
Oh, there's often a woman behind it, man.
Got to be a woman.
Yeah.
All right, Richard. It's all here.
So no, I want to see where you gentlemen want to take this. I didn't think we were going to talk about tragic stories. We blame the ladies on.
Blame the ladies. But oh, poor ladies. Where's Savo? Get Savo in here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. All you listeners, sorry. We're just having fun. No, but seriously though, Graham's right on. The stress is certainly is a big factor. In all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not what life throws at you; it's how you deal with what life throws at you. So yeah, I'm just gonna roll with the punches. Basically, I don't get too worked up, about failure or not conforming or any of that stuff. I feel I feel I'm in a lay-by, and everyone else is on the highway, and I'm just having a rest and looking at the madness.
I when I was working, I used to have to commute, right, miles and miles, and then when I was self-employed, I got an office somewhere close to my home, and I used to just have to drive a few miles. But I remember there's this one overpass on the way to work or the way to the office, and I would go over the freeway and I'd look at all the cars stacked up, and I'm like, oh, I don't have to do that.
Oh man, yeah, that sounds like a Tom Petty song.
Hey, that's our second song tonight. What was the first song we were working on? It was some internet blues, or let me see, what was it? It's internet radio blues. Internet radio blues. Did you hear about that, Richard? Were you listening when we were talking about that?
Yeah.
I was complaining that I can't take a vacation because I can't leave the server. Somebody's got to be here watching the server.
Mm-hmm. It's a calling, though. It's a calling in life, Stephen.
Well,
though you're ruling too much out, as I have spent a number of years, really a decade, where I was an entrepreneur myself, but it didn't always bring in enough money. It wasn't always able to stay in the black consistently all the time. Throughout all the years and all the fluctuations.
Yeah, a company went bust on me, owing me $7,600. They went bankrupt, and I lost that money. That was sad. That really hurt me.
You guys have any idea of how much money I've lost? It's ridiculous. I could go. I bet. My God, and this is not even counting money that I was supposed to get that got taken away at the last minute. I mean, that goes into the millions and millions. Oh, but man. Just in accounts receivable, I had to walk away on one account alone. I walked away from $90,000 on one account.
Well, how much?
90,000. Okay, in
for
one account. One account.
Well, Stephen, you worked primarily with lasers, but also
that
with
particular
related items, right?
That particular customer was a jewelry manufacturer, and they really were bastards. They just screwed me around. They came up with some real bullshit to try to get out of paying me. Real bullshit.
Steve, listen, give me their details. I'll start harassing them for the money, and we'll go halves.
Oh, Graham, that's just one customer. Let me see.
Yeah, but listen, we can only do one at a time, so we'll focus on them. I'll tell them as an international team, a mad Scotsman coming to cut their throats if they don't pay up. And we can go to Hawaii with the money or something.
A mad Scotsman, yeah, that'll intimidate him too. I'm already,
Graham,
on edge.
You're serious about stuff like that, but you got to know I don't do that stuff anymore. But because certainly I'm capable of doing that sort of thing too. But gosh,
now Graham, I'm trying to remember from when I asked you long ago, but you had posted on your Facebook you work with precious metals. So you still do that, or is that something that you've
No, it's something I've been doing. Something I've been doing for years, Richard. Yeah, I refine sterling silver, coins, jewelry, and ornaments, and make it into 100% silver. That's what I do.
Oh, but what do you do with the fine silver afterwards?
I sell it. I melt it into ingots and sell it.
Oh my God. Oh, Graham, do you have any idea how much experience I have with fine silver by any chance? Have you you never heard about that, huh?
Well, you guys should interview each other on this. Maybe start something up together.
All right, well, let me just say this, Graham. I used to this jewelry business I'm talking about, where the people owed me $90,000. That was for silver, okay, and that was for fine silver.
Yeah, 99.99.
But I used to buy it. I used to buy what they call dog bones. You ever silver dog bones? And it's like an extrusion. It looks like taffy. Taffy comes out in a strip, only it has it's thick on the edges.
Is that what they call sterling silver though? It's 97.
No, not sterling. It's pure fine silver. They call it fine silver.
Okay.
99.99. Anyway, yeah, I had to have the pure stuff, but I got it directly from the refinery. And I knew a guy who ran a refinery, so it was all cash. I bought it under the table, and I consumed something like 10 or 20 pounds, LB a month of fine silver. I was going through lots of it.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and I was using a plating process, electroforming. I had a 15-gallon tank, silver plating tank in my garage, and I would put these anodes, pure silver anodes, on either side of the tank, and these anodes each one would weigh several pounds. So I'd have
stuff.
Yeah, I'd have like 10 pounds of fine silver in there, and I'd go through that stuff like melting popsicles. I'd put in a big old thing, and I'd pull out a little sliver, and I'd just keep putting new ones in there. And I went through that stuff, making
big scale.
Big scale. I was making about $350 every 6 hours in this operation. That was my 24 hours, 24/7.
Yeah, listen, did you know you can get a real silver, 100% silver out of computer keyboard milers?
Really?
Yes. Wow. If you dismantle a keyboard, whether it's a laptop or whether it's just a cordless keyboard or whether it's an old-fashioned corded keyboard, it doesn't make any difference. There's two milers underneath the keyboard, which is basically two sheets of acetate, and they are printed with silver, and you can actually put it through a simple chemical process to recover all that silver. Did you know about that?
Well, I didn't know they had silver, but how much do you get per keyboard?
Well, you don't get a lot. You will maybe get quarter of a gram or a gram from one miler. But remember, I mean, these people are buying pallets of old IBM keyboards or whatever, and they're getting two out of each. You're getting two out of each keyboard. So anyway, what they do is, it's an interesting process, very simple, very interesting. So they cut them into strips, and they put the strips in a bath of nitric acid, not nitrous acid, nitric acid. So they put it in a container, a jar, or whatever, It's very hazardous. It's way above, on the danger spectrum, it's way above concentrated sulfuric and hydrochloric and all of those.
I used to work with it a lot. We use it for identifying gold. You test gold with nitric acid.
That's right. What do they call it? Aqua Puri or something? Aqua.
Yeah. Trust me, if you get that on your skin, you'll know real quick.
It just eats and eats.
You get a big black thing real quick, and it's only in a glass bottle. It has to be in a glass bottle with a glass topper too.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, I take these milers and I put them in the nitric acid very carefully with all the mask and everything on. And once I've done that, I put in a piece of cleaned copper plumbing pipe. You just steel wool it to get it all nice and shiny and give it a polish. And you stick it in the solution that you've made. And the silver, immediately, right before your eyes, it's quite beautiful. The silver crystallizes on the copper pipe. And you can see it growing into these really intricate shapes, like a snowflake. And it gets to a certain size where it can no longer support its own weight, and then it collapses, and then another one grows up. So and then it collapses, and so on and so forth, until the acid is kind of neutralized by the process. But then you've got this 99.99% silver in the bottom of the beaker. That's it's formed on the
what sticks to the copper?
The silver in solution. It crystallizes on the copper.
Okay, so and then it falls off the copper into the bottom, is what you're saying?
Yes. You usually use coffee filter papers. They're quite good for trapping it. Now, the stuff that goes into solution, right, is the silver and the copper. So the copper shows up as copper sulfate, as a blue tinge or a blue-green tinge, and it stays in solution, but you can also recover it as well. But remember, it's only 2.5% copper, And there's a little bit of nickel in coins and stuff. But coins are easy to do. You just simply dissolve them in the nitric acid. The silver goes into solution. There's no metal in the no visible metal in the jar.
Well, there's a thing here, Graham. Copper uses acid and silver uses cyanide. And the thing is you talk about, I'm listening to you and all that. Typically, your refineries aren't going to want to touch that stuff from what I understand. And I think they call. Okay, hold on. All right, everybody, we're back. We had a little bit of problem there. I'll edit this out of the tape. Sorry about that, Richard's show. We actually had, it's funny because we got to bring him in here real quick. Daryl tried to join us real quick. He's probably trying to call on his cell phone, but
it was a glitch in the matrix.
Is it a glitch in the matrix?
Yeah.
Somebody, I don't know what it is. Might have been.
About that.
It was probably. I'll blame it on Daryl. I think Daryl probably screwed it all up. That's it.
I probably did.
I probably was. We were just sitting here messing up with Richard's show, but it's crazy because we're sitting here being all so informal, and this is one of the shows that we simulcast on Wolf Spirit Radio. So, but anyway, we have Daryl here who doesn't get to do simulcast, unlike Richard and myself. I know, huh? Yeah, I know, Graham. You're all feeling like, what do you got to do to be on the simulcast?
I know. I want to be in with the big boys.
You're already
Me too.
Well, you're here right now.
Hello, Daryl. Glad to see you tonight. Hope you're doing well.
I am doing fantastic. Is this Graham?
Oh, Richard.
This is Richard. How you doing, Richard?
Good. Hope you're doing well. And then
we were.
I'm sorry for messing up your show, messing up the
not at all.
Logistics.
Not at all. Glad to hear from you.
Hey, let me see if our listeners. We still got a bunch of listeners.
Graham, you don't get a chance to speak to Daryl very often, do you?
I know. I never get to speak to Daryl.
No, I think we've only spoke one time, and I love your accent, man. I wish I could do that.
Hey, guys, real quick. I just got to say something real quick because we got a bunch of new listeners came in. I just want to let everyone know that this is Truth Cat Radio, and you are listening to Beyond the Matrix. This is Richard Carey's show. I'm Stephen Kelly. Richard was the guy who was speaking earlier, but we've actually have 4 different shows represented here. I'm just taking advantage of this. We have Graham Sutherland with Delete the Beast, Richard Carey, Beyond the Matrix, which you're listening to, of course, and Daryl with the Daryl Show, and myself, Stephen Kelly, with Stephen Kelly Show. So how about that, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's great for us all to be on the air together.
I know. I hope we don't get some mad eagle class or something.
No, this is what we were talking about last week. This is a conflagration. Divine providence.
Word.
Hey, Daryl, I hope you don't mind saying this. I'm saying this in there, but you heard about Sean, right?
Yes. Actually, Thunder gave me a call and told me about it.
Thunder
left the building.
Yeah. Oh no, that's not that guy. We're talking about another radio guy from another network that's having some issues. But he's been on Daryl's show here in the past. And anyway, it's just a big mystery right now, what's going on. And I was just anyway.
I don't know the details, but I know it sounds like he's in a bit of a bind.
Well, obviously, yeah, he's in a bit of a bind. He's gone AWOL, basically. And so he can't be doing his radio show anymore, certainly, and he can't really have any communication with anybody if he's going to remain hidden away. So so we're not going to talk about it, but obviously because he was on your show and all that, and we are an internet radio, and one of the biggest name in internet radio next to Stephen D. Kelly has issues. We're going to talk about it, right?
Yeah, he's one of the good guys, and everybody up there, if you do have contact with him, just give him as much support as you can. He's just in a bit of a bad spot, and I know he did a lot of training and talking about how to manage financial things and working with the IRS, and we know that's just a big gang, and so it's just always challenging to see somebody getting hemmed up by the crooks. So I'm hoping he comes out on top somehow.
We got to also let people know that turning him in is not going to be acceptable. All right. So if you are run into contact and you decide that you want to get a reward or some stupid thing, it's not going to go over too well out here in the community. Just letting everybody know.
No, he's an ally. He's an ally. He deserves our support, and he's been out there on the front lines for a couple of decades now. So.
Yeah. Anyway, but now, Rich, real quick though, Daryl, while you're here, it was just that you weren't sure if we were going to do a show on 4th of July. Personally, I don't care. If you want to do a show, I'm down for it. However, if you got family stuff to do, I certainly understand. But technically, in show business, the show must go on. That's generally the rule.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I hadn't even thought about it, but Shima sent me a message today, and she was asking the question. She was thinking about people traveling in the holidays, and so she asked me if I would actually do interview her for her show on Monday. Talk about what she's doing, but she's still going to do the show. But it didn't even occur to me that my show's on the 4th of July.
Yeah, I know, huh? Well, there again, I've done shows on Thanksgiving, Christmas, Halloween, my birthday, 30 minutes after my cat died. I don't care. It's show business.
Yeah,
I know you because you're hardcore. You're just
professionals
hardcore.
Don't dick around. We go up on stage no matter what. If the theater burning down, no, we go on stage. So
yeah,
right.
All right, we're going to have a 4th of July show. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Oh man, hey, listen. In the last 2 minutes, there's been quite a number of song titles spoken out, and I can hear them in my mind. Yeah.
Wow.
You're in a musical frame of mind, man. You should start writing this stuff down.
It must be something.
Daryl, Graham here is he broadcasts from Inverness, Inverness in Scotland. Inverness. I'm trying to pronounce it better. Thank you, Graham.
Yeah, it's the capital of the Highlands.
Yeah, and Daryl, where is it that you broadcast from exactly? Okay.
I'm in Toledo, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm about 2,000 miles away from Stephen Kelly, maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure.
Okay. You want to know something? Do you want to know something creepy? I am just across the water from where Alistair Crowley's house is.
Oh, really?
Yep, and I've been there hundreds of times. It's an alternative route home for me. It's a bit longer. It's a scenic route.
Wow. Man.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has something to do with why you're on your mission, huh?
Well, they say there's a ley line runs right through the loch or up the loch, and it goes over what's his name? The Great Beast. It goes over his property, apparently, Alistair Crowley. That's the story.
And that's in California, or is that where you're at?
Dude, that's
no,
Scotland.
man. It's in Loch Ness in Scotland.
Wow!
The home of the famous monster.
The monster being the Loch Ness monster, not Aleister Crowley. I'm thinking Aleister Crowley was the monster.
Yeah. Nessie, yes. Have there been any Nessie sightings lately?
Yes, there was. There was 2 last year. Large biological black thing came to the surface close to a couple that were fishing in a small boat. And they got a picture of it. Looked about 30, 35 feet long. And it was in national papers. It just looked like a huge eel, to be honest. But, bigger than an eel should be.
Yeah, much bigger. I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I know. I've seen some of the divers that went down and they came back with, I think they used sonar radar technology, and they mapped out the basically would be the outline. The sonar came back, and there's no doubt in my mind that there's something there.
Yeah, they got a perfect. They got 2 things. That was an American team. 2 boats, latest deep water scanning equipment. And they trawled the loch. It's 26 miles long, and it's like up to 2 miles wide in places. Anyway, they trawled the whole thing, and they got 2 things. They got a good color photograph of a flipper, of a fin. It's kind of diamond shaped with rounded corners, if you know what I mean, like a classic dinosaur, Pleiosaurus kind of flipper. And the second thing they got was they got a large scan of something biological, something warm-blooded, at about 200 feet. And it was a classic Pleiosaurus shape.
Now, how deep is the loch?
Well, they used to say it was bottomless. It's very, very deep. It's miles deep in some places. In fact, that's part of the problem. It's certain. Exactly. It's a natural. It's called the Great Caledonian Fault, or the Great Glen, and it's a natural, it's a natural glen between two completely different types of rock. Anyway, it's extremely deep, and they didn't have equipment. ROVs and stuff couldn't go to the bottom because they just weren't strong enough to withstand the pressure, because it's in places it's thousands and thousands of feet deep, and it's got a muddy bottom, and it's been sounded to have tunnels. There's tunnels under the bed, underneath the mud, that they reckon connects up to the sea.
And I wouldn't doubt it, whether it be naturally forming tunnels or prehistoric or ancient volcanic tubes, flow tubes that may have been hollowed out.
Yeah, you get a lot of tunnels in natural tunnels in limestone and sandstone.
Yeah. What I didn't know was that the lock was on a vortex or on a ley line.
Oh, yes.
It really shouldn't be surprising.
Oh, yes, it's right on a ley line. And it's interesting because when you visit Boleskine House, Elsa Crowley's house, there's a small road, there's a little B road goes past it. And at the other side of the road, there's a graveyard. And the graveyard is on a sloping kind of greenfield kind of site that goes down towards the loch. So you've got uninterrupted views of the water from the house. And there's tunnels. There's tunnels, red brick tunnels from the house to the graveyard for unknown reasons. Yeah.
Well, if it's Crowley's house, I speculate that it's nothing good came out of those tunnels.
No, it won't be anything good. The caretaker that used to look after it, he was Jimmy Page's friend, and he was his mate, he was his buddy. But he was also, he lived there for free, he was living there for free with his family. And he did a bit of gardening, he did a bit of painting, and he stayed there for free. Anyway, they interviewed him and asked him if he'd ever seen anything strange or, heard anything strange or whatever. And he said nothing happened for years, apart from bangs in the attic. They used to hear a lot of banging in the attic. And it was obviously, it was something spiritual. And he always felt it was something spiritual. But there was one night, for no apparent reason, there was a blinding light shone underneath his door. When he was in bed, there was a blinding light shining underneath the door. There was a really satanic voice speaking in a really sort of sinister kind of way, but incoherent. No words that he could understand. And there was a scratching. There was a scratching at the door, like an animal, like a bear or something scratching at the door. And he was absolutely terrified. So he switched on the light, and he pulled out a New Testament, and he started reading the Bible out aloud, and it all stopped. Wow. And it never happened again. Yeah, that was his story.
I don't doubt it, because, of course, for the other listeners who might be listening, Aleister Crowley, he was deep into the occult mysteries. And maybe not all of it was bad, but certainly he was into the dark mysteries. And I remember I have a book called the Necronomicon. And if I'm not mistaken, Crowley also was a subscriber of that. I was shocked that I actually found it in a bookstore. But have you heard of it? The Necronomicon?
Yes, I have. And, of course, Crowley wrote his own books as well. He wrote
Necronomicon.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm looking at the lock. I'm looking at the lock here right now, and I see Inverness is kind of north of the lock.
That's right.
But you say you're right off the lock right there?
If you go down the loch, Stephen, you'll see a town called Drumnadrochit, and a little bit further on, you'll see a small place called Invermoriston.
Yeah, see it.
Well, that's where I am.
Got it. That's where I was thinking you are. I can't believe it. I must be psychic, because that's exactly where I was looking. I must be psychic. That's a joke. Okay, so that's where you're at, huh?
Yeah, so there's like 22 miles of the loch north of me, and there's about 5 or 6 miles of the loch.
So where's this estate? It says Glen Morrison Estate. Is that it?
No, go across the water.
Across the water.
And you'll see a place called Foyers.
Well, I see Knocky Lodge.
Yeah, no, there's a little town on the water called Foyers.
Okay, it's across the water. Oh, yeah, there it is. Foyers. See it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, if you come down about 2 miles or 3 miles south,
take the road down. Okay.
Yeah, Boleskine House is just there.
Is it like a white and blue roof or something like that? A white house right there, sitting all by itself?
It's a white house on its own, with a big lawn round about it, and in front of it's a graveyard.
Yeah, I see it. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it's pretty
lonely, man. Looks pretty lonely.
It looks like it's kind of H-shaped.
Yeah, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's all surrounded by trees.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's Boleskine House.
Wow.
Now, Jimmy Page bought it, of course. Jimmy Page out of Led Zeppelin bought the house.
I can see why. It looks very private.
Yeah, and that's where the drummer out of Led Zeppelin, John Bonham, he completely went off his nut there, and he had a bad crash. After drinking a bottle of vodka, he had a bad crash.
There's something written on the ground here across the house. Is that the graveyard? It's set up to say something.
Are you on Google Earth?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and there's something there. If this is a graveyard, it's a big graveyard.
Yeah, hang on. I'll jump into Google Earth and have a look. Yeah, did you know Jimmy Page has bought the house, yeah?
No, but...
how's he doing there? Jimmy Page owns it now?
No, Jimmy Page sold it a few years back. I think he bought it in the late 70s.
All right, listen, this is the thing. If you look at it, Google Earth, and you look at this big giant graveyard across the street from the house, you'll see that it says something. I'm trying to see what it says, but there's something spelled out in the ground here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Graham, I find it interesting how you mentioned Loch Ness has a meeting of two completely different types of rock. You know that's right. That explains the depth of Loch Ness. I'm just imagining on the globe. It helps explain things. I never heard that before.
Yes, it's two.
Hey, what is the name of the house? Has a 5-letter name or something?
Boleskine.
Okay, well, it's whatever this word is. Looks like it starts with an M, W, IIP or something like that. Or it almost looks like wimp, but it may not even be English letters. It could be these graves are arranged in a sigil.
He was a pedophile as well. You know that, do you?
Well, yeah, but there's definitely something going on in this graveyard here that you probably wouldn't see unless you're looking at it from the sky.
Yeah, I'm just zooming in at the moment.
Hey, Daryl, I'm glad that you've been able to join in here tonight as well. I know you and Graham have a bit different styles, but I think you agree on a lot of the same points and attitudes. You probably get on just fine if you had a chance to chat more.
I think we really would. I'm enjoying our conversation now, and the Earth's crust that maybe created this chasm there, but you know, also I'm feeling, just explaining what Steve's looking at, from an Akashic standpoint. I just feel, every once in a while I just get a hit from like an Akashic record, and even, people have Akashic records, but so do properties. Every place is in the record as well, and the record there is just like something that I wouldn't want anything to do with. I just feeling like some bad energies there. And so if you saw, Steve's talking about looking at observing maybe some pattern or a symbol. I think it's what it is in the arrangement of the tombstones and things like that. It's just a spooky, bad, not nice place, and some lost spirits there.
Yeah, they went out of their way to set it up for some bad stuff for sure.
Well, one thing, and I mentioned the Nikon and Mekon, and again, I'm not trying to encourage anybody to go get the book. I appreciate that. I don't know many people like yourselves that even are aware of it. Matter of fact, when I see it in stores, I hide it. I hide it behind other books because I don't want other people getting it. It falls into the wrong people's hands. But even in the preface of the book, I read the preface, and it was written by the Mad Arab, and he actually went crazy, as these incantations and things he was making. So even though I have a copy, I'm serious. I actually have caution tape around the book. and anybody in my house or like my sons says you don't open that book. And there's chapters I just won't read.
Daryl, I had the book too, and I used to hide it in the furthest corner of my garage.
Oh, good. Then it wasn't just me, because there's stuff in there people don't need to know. You know, but you're right.
Yep.
You know, and I say that when you were talking about the story about the keeper, what he discovered there. One thing that I did get out of the book was, you know, this guy would actually do incantations and draw, you know, sacred geometry and symbols, but he would invoke spirits, but he did not know the incantation to dispel them. And so there's still things that are here walking because he didn't know how to send them back. And
That's
I think
right.
some of those are still there.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened in Beliskin House. And Crowley himself even said that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's exactly what he said.
Well, Graham, you mentioned how desolate it is in those regions. Not too many people around. Does this add to how eccentric people can become or be who get drawn there?
Yes, and the people who lived there before, after Jimmy Page, they were really secretive. You know, they didn't want anybody up at the house. They were quite protective and wouldn't give anything away. They wouldn't speak to journalists. They just said they wanted to be left alone. So God knows what they were into. But something happened this year, back in February. I'm not sure if the house was occupied. I think it might have been unoccupied at the time. But anyway, the roof burnt out of it. The roof caught fire, so the roof's gone. If you seen a recent picture, you'd see a burnt out roof, or maybe they've repaired it already. I don't know.
Doesn't look like it's burned out.
No, and it was severely burnt out. You know, all the main trusses were gone, and all the main beams were gone, and everything. It just collapsed right in on itself.
Wow.
But there's a big basement. There's a big basement in the house as well. And as I say, there's these tunnels that go right across the road underneath and into graveyard. That's strange. That is very strange.
That is. Hey, Richard, if I just asked you this question, was there anything specifically that you wanted to cover here tonight? I'm going to stay on for a few more minutes, but I was wondering if there's a place that you wanted to venture to, just kind of expand my horizon a little bit, see if I can flow with you.
Well, no, I kind of been letting the night flow. You know, we've had Graham agree to come on after his show, and Stephen joined in. Now you're joining in, so I've been kind of letting the conversations topic evolve with who joins in. I mean, is there anything that you actually, Daryl, had to ask Graham? You know, you guys live so far away from each other, don't have a chance to chat much, even though you're on the same station here.
Well, yeah. I do have something that I've been kind of wrestling with for a few months now. You know, I'm going to be I've become like part of the family here in Ohio with the Serpent Mound, and I don't know if you're familiar with Serpent Mound, but it's the largest serpent-like effigy on the planet, and it's just shaped like a huge serpent, and they think it probably is over 10 to 12,000 years old.
Where is it
also? Well, it's also on a vortex. It's on a ley line. Matter of fact, it's also at the edge of a meteor crater fault. But there's like, when we talk about vortexes, you know, for me, there's places I have to go when I want to get grounded, if I'm ever like really on tilt. And my first experience at Serpent Mound proved to me that, okay, it really is on a ley line, like people talk about. But here's what's happening. You know, this August, I'm going to be speaking there. I'm one of the speakers, and we've got people coming from LA and everywhere to participate on August 21st, which is the day of the coming full solar eclipse. And this is basically my question. Now, this is the first time in 99 years, I think, 90 or 99 years, that there's been a full solar eclipse inside the United States that goes from coast to coast. It starts up on the northeast of the United States, and it exits down on the No, so it starts in the northwest, and it comes all the way.
You had it right. Goes from Washington to Florida.
Bingo. And so my question really is, and now the other phenomenon is exactly or approximately 7 years later, we're going to have another total solar eclipse that's going to go just the opposite direction. It's going to start up around Rhode Island and Washington, and it's going to end down below California and Mexico. And X is going to mark the spot. So we got a really rare phenomenon happening. And I'm wondering if any gentlemen have any experience or any insight onto the significance of a solar eclipse, or maybe what that is doing to the planet and the people on it energetically, or even spiritually.
It causes
I know it's a heavy question.
I wouldn't say a whole lot, because when you think about energetically, the only thing energetically happening is it's being taken away for a moment, you know.
Yeah, for about 2.5 hours.
Right, but
places go dark.
Yeah.
Now that might have an interesting effect on humans, perhaps. You know, there might be some little change because they're not getting that energetic whatever that, you know, who knows.
Daryl, you also took note of the ley lines Graham was mentioning in Scotland there near Loch Ness. So is that something you've studied a bit? I don't know if either of you other gentlemen have studied ley lines at all, but I don't know. What have you found, Daryl?
Yeah, I've studied them for several years. I've done quite a bit of reading and research on them. I do know that every pyramid, even over in England, the Easter Island effigies, they're on ley lines, and there's strange phenomena that happen on ley lines. And even right here from Mount Shasta, California, or right down here, even on Serpent Mound, it's on a ley line. And the energy grid, and then you can introduce other phenomenon, whether it be crop circles that miraculously appears. But there's a geometric pattern of the earth that we don't really fully comprehend, but we know that these are very high spiritual centers where people, you know, they have an effect on people. And when I get an opportunity to, I enjoy basking in the energy of a ley line. I really don't know much more to take to bring to it, other than like at Serpent Mound. I know I go recharge my crystals there. I participate in ceremony with a lot of the Native American brothers and sisters. And as a matter of fact, it's all people of all faiths, you know, that we're going to come together. I think every March I go there, and there's other people, Mazatsin and some other people I've had on my show. And that's where I met some of these people, and a lot of the Native American chiefs, Chief Golden Light Eagle, Clifford Mahooty, and others. You know, from a traditional people standpoint, they've always known, and they've never lost that tradition of the significance of these places. And they've got their interpretation of what ley lines do and how important it is for that they kind of harmonize the energies on the planet. And sometimes
they have a lot to do with time. I know that a lot of the, for instance, where they meet, the intersections, what do they call the meridians? Or the intersections are meridians. Yes. Now, meridians, I think, are a little more significant than the actual ley line itself, although I'm sure there's something going on with the ley line. It's kind of like dowsing. You know, when they dowse, when your people are looking for water, they're using a, you know, dowsing rod or something of this nature. It's not the water that it's actually the energy. And if you look at a dowsing rod, or if you know anything about dowsing rods, they tend to go up and down as you get closer. And it's like riding a wave, and basically the energy is like in a spiral. And what they'll do is they try to find the center of the spiral. That's how a dowsing rod works. So I would suspect that with your ley line that there's some sort of similar magnetic sort of something or other going on there. Some change.
Well, I think between that and you're familiar with the work of Richard Hoagland. You know, and for a while he was Richard Nixon's science advisor, and he's worked with NASA, and he had a lot to say on the geometry and the longitude and latitude that these ley lines tend to be on, and then also looking at the formation of other planets. And there seem to be some commonalities, and that this phenomena happens at very specific longitudes and latitudes on the Earth. And sometimes I wonder, well, okay, how's that related to the Schumann resonant frequency and other phenomena, which, as a matter of fact, right now, you know, it's off the charts. People don't know what to think. You know, we went from 7.8 hertz to now we're up to like 140, 160 hertz, and nobody really knows what it means.
Oh, hey guys, listen, we've got Lucas here. Lucas, you in where? Ireland?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Lucas, where are you at right now?
UK.
UK. Oh, well, where in the UK?
I would be over in East Anglia in Cambridge.
Cambridge. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for calling in. Thank you for calling
Hey.
in, Lucas. What did you want to share with us?
Hi, how's it going, everyone? It was, is it Daryl brought up the question of how he would sort of about the Serpent Mound and how he would see the eclipse and what would be going on there. And I just had a few thoughts of like how I see it, because the planets not specifically sort of send out energy, as it were. You know, they're operating on like an archetypal level, which is sort of symbolic within us. That an eclipse is kind of, I view it as a balancing point, because traditionally that would be a merging of like the masculine and feminine energies, because obviously they cross and sit one in front of the other depending on whether it's a sonar.
The sun and the moon.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so like on an archetypal kind of level, you know.
No, but wait a minute. How could there be female energy? Because the female energy is the reflection of the male energy.
Well, a feminine and masculine, not female or male.
Well, yeah, I understand, but the yin and yang. But the point is that the energy that we'll call masculine coming from the sun, the reverse being the reflection of the sunlight off of the moon, especially experienced during a full moon. So technically, the energy that we're getting off of the moon isn't emanating from the moon itself as a star, but rather the reflection and therefore the reversal of the energy coming from the actual star. So if the sun or the moon is acting as a shadow, that means that the light impinging on the surface of the moon, which would normally reflect and give us the feminine energy, is going back out into space. We're not getting any feminine energy. We're getting less masculine energy.
I mean, that's one way to look at it.
So to me, there's actually zero energy coming through, because you're not getting the masculine from the sun or the masculine reflection off of the moon.
True, but the moon's always reflecting, right? So does that mean that the moon is the moon is a transformer? The moon's
it's opaque. The only thing that's this is okay. Here's an interesting. We're learning as we go here, Daryl. You guys listen to this. The sun puts out scalar energy. It doesn't just put out photons. Okay, when the moon gets in front of the sun, all the photons and all the radiation and what have you that's traveling in a coherent direction is not going to go through. None of that's going to get through. So all that energy is not going to get through. What will get through? The scalar will get through. It's the only thing that will get through.
Well, what if you look into the terms of like the caller? I forget, what is your name, caller?
Luke.
Luke? Okay. What if you put it in Luke's reference when he referenced an archetype? And if we go back to other studies and they say as above, so below, what if it really is simply and simple, maybe at level one, that we have physically, we have the divine feminine energy eclipsing the male masculine energy. And it's maybe just a signal of a change in the balance, or just that, just the idea we got the feminine energies eclipsing the male energies.
They cancel each other out. We don't get either one.
That's kind of what I'm saying, like a balance between the two.
Physically, I can see what you mean as an archetype, spiritually speaking, logistically and all that. But energetically speaking, you have to think in terms of physics.
Yeah.
And this is so the best that they could do would be cancel each other out, and you'd get nothing. But there's what's wrong with that?
I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to go beyond physics, and I'm going to go even beyond quantum physics. And I think here we might be talking about transphysics, which is maybe something that's it's a spiritual concept, really. But transphysics, where it's just a signal. And I say this in reference to, about 7 or 8 years ago, all the indigenous people have been working on getting together, and the mothers, the grandmothers, the women have been coming together, and they've been telling all the indigenous tribes that the time for this male masculine energy that's dominated this planet, and really is the cause of so much war, crime, violence, pollution, that it's got to change, and we've got to bring this feminine energy alongside and let them take their place. And there's a group that calls the 13 grandmothers.
You had it in the beginning. You started out at the beginning was perfect, because what this means is that if you remove the extraneous energy, the male and the female, right away we're removing the male and the female, plus we're removing all the ambient stuff coming, electromagnetic spectrum. And then what's left? Scalar, that's information. So in other words, if you remove the male and the female and everything else, you're going to be able to, it's like getting rid of all the background noise, and now you can hear the music.
Pure information.
Right, you got balance again.
Yeah.
You got harmony. You got harmony. And the harmony of energies.
What do you think about that, Graham? Richard?
Well, I was hearing all this stuff in the mid-'80s. I was right into the whole New Age thing in the 1980s, and I spent some time at the Findhorn Foundation, which is considered to be the mecca of the New Age movement. The fly-in, they've got their own airfield, and they fly in from all around the world for meditation and all this stuff. So yeah, I was hearing all this feminine energy stuff in the 80s, and I got a bit disillusioned with it all. What I found was like loads and loads of people who were quite lost and lonely and didn't really, they didn't really have any kind of solid coherence with everyone else. They were just kind of like lost, fragmented people with, I don't know, no kind of.
I agree with that. I'm not into like New Age stuff, by the way. So I'm not that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but mumbo jumbo aside, there's still a lot of physics. I mean, physics is physics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially
that's
quantum
why I
physics
brought up
is
the
pretty
archetype
advanced.
rather than the spiritual, New Agey thing. That's why I was talking about the archetype of what it's meant to be and the crossing of the two. So.
Yeah, but listen, I have to say that, I mean, these ley lines, Scotland is absolutely covered on them. We've got loads of them, and they are a mysterious energy source. And our forefathers were able to harness it, and we've lost that art. I mean, this is a fact, and people describe it in all different ways. Some people call it energy fields or magnetic fields or, some kind of spiritual meridians of the planet or whatever. It doesn't matter. You can call it what you like, but there is clearly a whole load of these ley lines across the UK. And I mean, that's why, you've got all King Arthur and all that stuff. And, what do you call it? Stonehenge and everything. It's all in the bowels of England.
Well, there's the one where I am. There's the main one that comes up from Cornwall that runs up the sort of southern edge of England. That goes right through the town that I'm in.
Yeah.
And in the town, there's a place called the Caves, which is like just underground, just underneath like the high street of the town. And it's like a beehive under there, like the main chamber of the cave, and like the Templars were involved in that when they were around, but it was pre-existing before they found the place. And it's right on one of the main nodes of that ley line that runs up from.
Is it limestone country, Lucas?
It is, but it's very chalky here. It's basically it comes up from the north of London, and it's basically like a huge valley, and it's very pebbly and stony, and then it turns into like a chalk base all the way up towards Cambridge.
Yeah.
So, like for instance, like the water here is very heavy, laden with chalk,
right,
and all that. So yeah, it's more of a chalk base. I don't know what significance that kind of has, but. It's one of the main. The town is one of the main points on that ley line, though. It's the main one that comes up from Cornwall.
Where you get chalk, you always get these tunnels. You always get these honeycombs because the chalk dissolves quite easily in water.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, if you drive up just on the outside of the town, as you go out of the town, there's literally like bare hills of chalk. It looks like a mini Cliffs of Dover.
Yeah.
When you drive out of the town, it's there's that much chalk here.
Yeah. And it even colours the soil, doesn't it?
It does. It can be very fertile soil for like a few years, and then there'll be nothing. It's almost like it sucks all the nutrients out of the soil to grow decent crops and stuff like that. But farming and goes like that anyway. But
yeah, it doesn't really hold biological material that well.
I'm not sure. I've never looked into it. I don't know the basis of of how that really works in terms of what it does. But there's a lot of mustard fields around here. But
Well, I'll interject just one point of curiosity, and I'm not sure how relevant it might be, but I don't know if you gentlemen are aware of the discovery of the Bosnian pyramids in Bosnia by Dr. Sam Osmanagic. They're using volunteers to excavate it, but they found a pyramid complex in Bosnia. And there's 3 of them.
Oh, yeah.
And you've heard of them?
yeah.
Yeah. And so the amazing thing is those pyramids, the largest one, the Pyramid of the Sun, is larger than the pyramids, any pyramid that we know of, including the pyramids in Egypt. But the curious thing that I found, it also is on a ley line. And it's older than the pyramids in Egypt. So you had made a reference to information that we lost. The most interesting thing that I found about the Pyramid of the Sun is something that Nikola Tesla just only theorized 100 years ago. And he had what he called non-Hertzian technology. But in the Pyramid of the Sun, they measured it, and there's some type of an energetic expression or energy beam or whatever we want to call it.
Run with us here. Okay, we haven't got Graham yet. We are back on live, though. Okay, Graham's here. Sorry about that, guys. We're definitely getting screwed with here. Let me just see if Daryl wants to come back. We're getting down to the end of the show anyway.
Oh, hello.
We're having a little bit of issues with the little silly Skype tonight, it looks like.
Yeah, Bill, I thought I was isolated.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, you didn't get off the server, so we couldn't get back in. I had to go back and drop you. Welcome back, everybody. Again, we're sorry about that. Skype is giving us hard times, and we got about 30 minutes left in the show. So whoever was talking, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
Yeah, Lucas, you were talking about these energies, or I'm sorry. Could you continue where you left off?
Yeah, sure. Well, I wasn't really the point I was trying to make about it was that I don't really consider them energies coming from those celestial bodies as such, because I look at them more as archetypes within oneself, from that kind of tradition of tarot and psychology. These are things that are worked within ourselves that just happen to be an external manifestation. So I look at them as like an archetypal sort of symbol or reference to go by. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but yeah.
There was something in particular, though, you also referenced, right, when we were getting cut off. What do you remember what it was? You said you had been working with. You mentioned something in specific that you had been researching or working with.
I don't remember what that was, actually. Okay. I don't remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. No.
A couple of minutes ago.
Well, Daryl, Graham, Stephen, did you have anything else you wanted to contribute to this same line of this topic?
Yes, I think we've not mentioned the fact that there's quite good evidence to point to the fact that these ley lines, these energy grids, were used to move large blocks of stone weighing hundreds of tons. They were able to harness this energy somehow and use it for lifting stuff. We've not really spoke about that.
Yeah, I've looked into that a little, and I would agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, lifting and moving heavy blocks of hundreds and sometimes thousands of tons in weight for a single block. That wasn't moved with levers and pulleys.
Oh yeah, there's no way. I mean, that story is so farcical. Is the amount of men you would need and rope you would need and stuff is.
Yeah, and that kind of weights. If you put that on any kind of timber roller, it would just flatten it like a pancake.
Well, exactly. I mean, you know, the rollers would sink into the dirt, wouldn't they, just from the weight of it? And
yeah, but even if it was like rollers on stone, you know, and these huge blocks of stone on top, the wood would just collapse.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Well, that's like who was the guy who did the Coral Castle out there in the States?
Yes.
I can't remember his name, but he was adamant, and there's stories about how he was seen by a couple of young lads in the town, that they sort of jumped up onto the wall one night and watched him, and he was just maneuvering. He had like a wooden box in his hand, and he was just kind of maneuvering this stone, and it was like floating into place, and like he built that place completely on his own, you know.
Yes, and he claimed he had the secret of levitating heavy stones by using sound.
Yeah, that's right.
And that secret died with him because he never told anyone, and nobody's been able to duplicate it, from what I understand.
That's right. That's right. But there was a noise.
Sorry, go ahead.
The witnesses said they heard a particular kind of sound.
That makes it even more interesting then, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think they described it as a buzz or a hum. Yeah.
Well, I watched the documentary, and there was like old pieces of equipment. They weren't intact from when he was there, but there was like cogs and, you know, boxes with like certain pieces of metal in certain formations in there, and that kind of thing. It was, you know.
I wonder where he got his information, eh?
Well, maybe, you know, he had that kind of Akashic record thing. Maybe it come from. He wasn't actually American, was he? He was he came over from was it Hungary or something originally, I think?
Yeah, I think he was Eastern European.
Yeah. And so he sort of came over, so perhaps he was he had pre-knowledge of certain things, you know. And as Daryl was saying about the pyramids out there, I was wondering, actually, I got cut off just before when you were talking about it, that I wonder how many aquifers, or if there's aquifers underneath those or in that area.
Oh, that would be a good question. I know I was actually looking to go out there a couple of years ago to volunteer, but they were still excavating, and as far as they got, they did reveal that all the pyramids, they're within like 1.5 miles of each other, but they were all connected with underground tunnels. But I don't know that if I read anything. Oh, you know, I did read about an aquifer. Yes, they said in the Pyramid of the Sun, there was an underground stream, and there was like a column I-beam of stone that held up, was right below a certain area where they had this like 2-ton rock. It was like a smooth egg-shaped rock, but they said inside that rock they x-rayed it, and there was a ceramic stone inside the rock.
Wow.
What?
And it said, yes, there's a ceramic stone inside of a rock inside the pyramid, the Pyramid of the Sun in Bosnia. And so they think that maybe something between the water hitting that column, whatever that stone or rock was made of, vibrating up through the crystal or the whatever the ceramic thing is inside the stone. And this is at a time when, you know, who's doing ceramics, you know, 12,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago. But yeah, it's really odd phenomena out there, and it's being suppressed because people like in Egypt, you know, the people in Egyptian antiquities, they don't want it out because they don't want to lose all the tourism dollars and things like that. So Dr. Asmanigic, he's using only volunteers to excavate it. But yeah, there obviously was there's a river stream or a stream or whatever it might be that flows below the pyramid in Bosnia. And there's more technology above it, connected to a stone and a rock, a 2-ton rock with a ceramic something inside of it.
Was the ceramic any specific shape, or was it just they just know it's ceramic at its core?
I remember from what they said, it was also kind of oblong shape. I won't say egg, but it had, you know, that kind of a shape. But they called it was ceramic. and it was encased inside of a rock that was thousands of years old. They don't know how it got inside there.
That would be really interesting to find out what that's made of.
Yeah. And it was above this that this energy shot up, that this non-Hertzian energy was shooting up above that. So, you know, the energy, as it got further away from the pyramid, it actually increased. It got more powerful as it went, toward space. So it just it flows just the opposite of the way we understand flow and energy to move. So it almost appears as if something from the constellation, another celestial body, was shooting the energy into the pyramid, which would make more sense.
Well, I gotta tell you what that's all about, Daryl. But did you hear about the latest from Gogol Tepe, you guys?
No.
You got okay? That's that excavation in Turkey that they found. It's like 20,000 years old. It's like ridiculously older and everything. And they found this, and it was buried. They built this thing. Whoever built it, buried it and covered it up. And they anyway, it's like a little. Well, anyway, this is the thing. It's a very, very ancient thing. It has some interesting architecture that nobody knows where it traces to. But they've just found human skulls and pieces of human skulls in the excavation. And what's important isn't that the skulls belong to people that live there. The skulls were actually ornamentation and were actually engraved and had special carvings or cuts in the skulls. And they saw that one actually looked like it had holes drilled in it so that it could be mounted on a wall.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that bizarre? So that's kind of bizarre. That might suggest there might be, cannibalism or human sacrifice going on way back when.
Yeah, well.
Gopi Tepe?
Uh-huh.
I'll have to look into that.
Now, I knew that they started to bury it up again, didn't they? Because they said it was damaging, the air was damaging the stone, so didn't they start to try and cover it back up again or something?
Who knows? That's the first I heard about that.
Yeah.
Oh, well. And on that note, gentlemen, I apologize, but I've got to get ready to bail. Someone got to take care of with my little one here. But, man, it's been a pleasure. And thank you, Richard, Graham, and thank you,
Becky,
Steve, for
thank you. Sorry.
For having me on. All right, we got to do this again sometime.
Definitely. Thank you, Daryl. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
right,
that was fun, too.
Thank you all. All right. Good night, gentlemen. All right, bye-bye.
Take care.
Get out of here, Daryl. Hey, Daryl, don't forget to leave the conversation and when you go. I just dragged Dave in here. I was going to say something else about the pyramids, from a standpoint of energy, because there is some actual physics here. But the thing is the pyramids, they lost the outer layer. The limestone layer that was on the outside of the pyramids act as a crystal, and Graham, this is fast. When we got to talk more about the silver, because there's a lot of stuff that you don't know about silver that I want to tell you about. Right. But the thing is that if you look at the Wilhelm Reich and his orgone collectors, the pyramid is a giant orgone collector because of the different materials. The inside layer was a type of material, and the outside layer was a different material. And this, using the laws of dissimilar material, it acts like a big giant piece of orgonite or a giant capacitor or even a giant battery, and it will actually collect ambient energy and move it inwards. So the energy, because of the shape of the pyramid, was actually being focused into that inner chamber. And people think that's a grave. No, that's not a grave. What that was, that's where the receiver was. That's where the ark was, or whatever, that they had the crystals inside that would receive this energy and turn it into whatever.
Understand, yeah.
Right. And then the energy that, one thing I should mention, something I want to say real quick, Irish line dancing, if you look at Irish line dancing, when they're sitting there with their arms at their side or being held out straight, horizontal, and they're tapping on the ground, what they're actually doing is creating the resonant frequency against the earth with their feet, just the same way that Tesla was introducing frequencies into the earth and getting energy back. And so this was actually a form of ancient Celtic levitation. And the reason why they held their arms out straight to the side was because this was like you're swimming. It was like an antenna. You're actually balancing yourself as you're levitating. That's where that dance comes from. So, and the ley lines would certainly apply to that, Graham, like you're saying, or Lucas, because the energy is going to be so strong there that naturally these cultures are going to develop all sorts of technology for moving this stuff around.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Ark of the Covenant right out of the Bible, we know The Ark of the Covenant weighed 2 tons. 4 men did not carry that thing around. It floated in it had a magnetic field, and it floated. And it was that magnetic field that pushed back the water and allowed them to cross the Red Sea.
Yep. I've heard this before, and it makes sense.
But this is the thing. This is the thing, though, you got to understand, is that the energy moves outwards and it moves inwards. And this is where the spirituality stuff comes in, because when we serve others, our energy goes out. When we serve ourselves, the energy comes in. It's like being an energy sucker or an energy giver. That's why the only people that could get anywhere near the Ark of the Covenant were the high priests who had devoted their lives to serving others. Therefore, they did not overdose on the energy every time they got near it. But any normal person who was service to self, if they got near the Ark, they would die. And Dave, did you want to say something?
Oh, wow.
On Richard's
Where
show?
do I start?
You say hi to Richard. It's his show.
Richard, great to hear from you. This is a fantastic show.
Thank you, Dave. Glad to have you here. I
Thanks
appreciate that.
One of the things I was going to say about that Great Pyramid at Giza, one of the things that most people don't know is that, there are chambers, where there are those, intricate, beautiful hieroglyphics painted, and there are no marks on any of the walls that show that anybody was carrying a torch in order to see inside that pyramid. Yeah. So they must have had some sort of a means of illuminating those chambers that didn't involve fire or smoke or any of those things.
Well, we know they had electricity because they used electroplating to make jewelry.
Yeah, it's the only sensible explanation.
And we know that they had electricity because of the Baghdad battery.
That's right.
Yes.
Another thing most people have never heard of.
So we know that they could generate DC electricity, and they were able to they made light bulbs.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, a light bulb is not that high tech when you think about it.
Hell no.
Not really.
Pretty crude. Well, they didn't have tungsten back then, but they probably used something similar.
They maybe made an arc, Steve.
Well, I don't think they made an arc. If you look at the old hieroglyphics, they have these things. They look like really large bulbs. Yes. So more than likely, they had some sort of filament in there.
Yeah.
Made out of whatever metal they would have had at the time. Could have even been copper. So the glow was probably not very strong. It was probably just a faint glow. Because, if you put DC over a copper wire, it's going to get red hot, right?
Yeah, almost white hot.
So now what if you put that wire inside of an evacuated chamber? Let's say the light you put inside of a tube, and I'm sure they could suck air out of a chamber, right? So they could make a rudimentary light bulb using copper wire.
Yep.
Mm. Well, the air's going to be really thin, isn't it? Up in the king's chamber, and as the higher you go, or the lower you go down into the basement, it's meant to be really thin as well, isn't it?
So, yeah.
Kind of like exploring a cave, huh?
Yeah. On the Wilhelm Reich thing and the Covenant. Wilhelm's right, the layers he had, right? It was like wooden, and then didn't he have like wool, and then a layer of copper, and then wool, and then wood again?
He used steel wool. He used wood, steel wool, wood, steel wool, steel wool. All right, this is the thing about the dissimilar material rule, guys, is that with Wilhelm Reich, the dissimilar materials were an organic material and a non-organic material. But it also works with metal, which is because we know that a copper layer with copper, zinc, or lead, zinc makes electricity, right? It's the same theory. Same thing with a capacitor. A capacitor is typically a thin layer of metal with some sort of carbon or something in the middle of it. That's a capacitor. So batteries, capacitors, all these things, they all work on the law of dissimilar materials. But the direction that the ions flow will be determined by the natural electronic of the surface. It's just like if you look at the air that we breathe, it's mostly oxygen and hydrogen, and I always get them mixed up, but the oxygen is positive and the hydrogen is negative, or vice versa, one of the two. So by changing, when they make rain, which is basic alchemy, right? You're combining the hydrogen and the oxygen, so you're causing an electrical connection because the hydrogen, the positive wants to bond to the negative. And this is the same thing we do when we purify water, like when we use shunganite or we put cilantro in the water or something like that. It's because it has a positive charge or a negative charge that actually sucks the bad crap, which tends to have a positive charge, out.
Yeah.
It's all basic alchemy. And this is the sort of thing that would get you burned at the stake, a couple hundred years ago, huh?
Yeah.
So do you think then that the Ark of the Covenant operated in the same way then? It was made in that manner.
I think that the Ark of the Covenant was actually created by other entities other than the Earth humans that were living in Egypt at the time. I think that the crystals that were involved, that are mentioned in the Bible, in the Old Testament, I think that those were actually semiconductors. And I believe that the construction of the Ark, which was basically a wooden box with gold on the inside, gold on the outside, was nothing more than a Wilhelm Reich orgone accumulator. And I believe that the surface of the Ark, which was basically where all the weight was the lid, was no more than a gold source that was allowed to degrade to produce the manna from the Ark. Was a mana generator. That's really what it was. It sat inside of an electronic magnetic field. An Ark was created between the wingtips. That was the Ark. From that Ark, it caused there was actually arc of electricity which performed a light, and that would cause the degradation of the gold into monoatomic gold, and that's where the mana came from. So basically, it was a mana maker. Now, Graham, you should understand that fine silver will do something similar when it is exposed to a arc or a plasma. It can't be just an arc. It has to be a plasma, which means that the semiconductors would have had to electronically compress the arc into a tiny, tiny ball, just like the sun. So it would start emanating this energy. And then, see, one of the things I learned, Graham, with my silver research was that working with the University of Colorado was that they could get ultraviolet light to emanate from pure silver if the silver was exposed to a plasma, but it had to be within a magnetic field, because you need a magnetic field to contain the plasma. Okay.
Yeah,
that's part of making the plasma, is creating that magnetic field.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's the point is that UFOs, which are made out of silver, use this plasma and they use this magnetic field concept to create ultraviolet light from the silver, which will actually propel the craft by producing gigawatts of light in the ultraviolet spectrum, and that's how they achieve the speed of light. It's like riding a hose, if you will. If you could imagine a fire hose that had a 21-foot diameter, that had a stream of water coming out of it, 21 foot wide at 1,000 psi. Just imagine how fast you'd be going. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, that's how a light ship or a beam ship achieves light speed, is by actually using light to push it. And it should be, and it's interesting because the same technology that went into the Ark of the Covenant to produce mana is also used to make beam ships go the speed of light.
Wow! And you're saying in the ultraviolet spectrum.
Silver as a lasing medium produces ultraviolet light, just like aluminum gallium arsenide produces red light, or copper produces some other color. Different materials, different lasing medias produce different wavelengths, and it just so happens that the wavelength that comes out from silver is when you use it as a lasing media is ultraviolet, which is pretty handy.
So that's your wormhole then.
Well, there's no such thing as a wormhole.
But
they made that up.
That terminology, just to make the point.
It's really no such thing. A wormhole is basically when you achieve the speed of light. You got to remember, in order to achieve the speed of light, you first have to be within a magnetic field. And once you've achieved the speed of light, all of your matter of your beam ship is going to be momentarily turned into a radio signal, or energy, if you will. and then it'll be turned back into matter. Now, when you remove all of your matter and you are at the speed of light, you will have achieved E equals mc squared. Am I correct? Guys, think about it, right? Because you cannot have E equals mc squared unless you could get your matter to go to the speed of light.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can't do that because if you do the equation, you'll see that you can't do it if you have any matter. The answer to E equals mc squared is you got to get rid of all the matter. So how do? You convert all the matter into energy. Suddenly you can achieve light speed. All right. Well, no, if you can't go past light speed, but when you reach light speed, if your matter isn't converted into energy, you're going to go somewhere that you don't want to go.
Yeah.
And see, that's what they do. So now if you want to go back in time or forward in time, it has to do with the speed with which you decrease from the speed of light, because you change your phase. Your phase is your weight. Remember that radio signal? When I say you turn yourself into a radio signal, well, that radio signal has a phase, a point, a start point, and an end point. Well, if you take your little clock and you turn it back just a little bit so that the start point comes a little bit before where it's supposed to be, you will go back in time. If you want to go forward in time, you have to move it a little bit forward. These all require extremely complex algorithms and computations, and obviously we don't have that capability yet. But they do.
Yeah. So we all heard of stories of maps with treasure on them when we were kids. In this case, the map is the treasure.
Hey, Graham, one more thing, and you should know this from your work with.
I like that.
It has the finest resolution of any material there is. You can, when you plate with it, it will plate in the tiniest crevices and the most fine detail of any other material. There's no other material that you can use for electroplating that will produce such fine, intricate detail. And this is why they use it for making beam ships, because it's the only material in the universe that you can construct ion by ion.
Yeah.
Did you say silver?
Silver, yeah, fine silver. That's why it's so special. It's like Legos. If you could imagine building a beam ship out of Legos, and each Lego was the size of an ion, that's what you'd be doing. And that's why they say when you look at these things, they look like they're fluid, like everything blends in. It's because that's exactly what it is. And when you look at this 3D engineering, you see this 3D printing crap that they're doing. That's what a beam ship is, only it's 3D printed one ion at a time.
Oh, wow.
That's what a beam ship is. And trust me, when you're printing something one ion at a time that has the resolution of an ion, and that thing that you're printing is 21 feet in diameter and about 8 foot tall, it's going to take you 250 years to complete that. That's like the most complex semiconductor that's ever existed in the world, beyond anything we've ever made, only huge and monstrous in size. That's what a beam ship is.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking something made by the Germans and using a BMW motor either. I'm talking about a real beam ship.
Where were these built?
Pleiades, planets. It takes the entire resources of one planet to build one of these things, and it takes them about 250 years to make, but they last thousands of years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets to fly around in one of those things.
Yeah. Commander Stephen might, though, if he's lucky. You might, Stephen.
Nah, they'll trick us into.
So if you're like hose, you're talking about like the hose analogy, 21 feet wide and stuff. So if that's what's occurring for that to happen, and the arc was using the same principles as that on that scale, and literally having the arc and creating the atomic gold, then is that your light bulb inside your pyramid then that isn't going to show any burn marks and stuff, and be able to light up the inside of the pyramids for them to be able to do?
Well, not really. Although you're right. Certainly, if they could create an Ark of the Covenant, they could certainly create a short arc xenon lamp right?
Mm.
You know, but look at okay, I had a product. It was actually a CIA product. You guys may have heard this story. We called it the plasma beam, and it was a short arc xenon bulb, which isn't that strange, okay? But this particular short arc xenon bulb had special electronics that would squish the arc into a tiny, tiny little pinpoint, okay? And that's how it became plasma. Now, the next step was that we had to have a really, really accurate reflector, which means that it had to be a really, really good parabolic mirror, and it had to have a very, very good reflective surface, which in this case was aluminum. It was actually solid aluminum. It was actually an electroformed aluminum reflector, and it had to be a special aluminum that would not oxidize from the radiation coming from the arc, if you will.
Right.
All right. And now if you take that little tiny, because it's a tiny, tiny little ball now, a pinpoint, and not like a little miniature little line, you can use the focal point of the optics, because the optics is going to be a tiny, tiny little point. It's going to focus onto a pinpoint. So then when you could put a tiny, tiny pinpoint of light at the focal point of a parabola like that, you're going to have pretty much parallel light coming out of that parabolic mirror.
It becomes a vector point.
It becomes a lightsaber.
Excellent.
No, it becomes a flashlight that works like flashlights should work. It has a beam that's sort of like a tube, if you will. I don't know, a light pipe. It's a very concentrated beam. The focal point and the ability of the beam and all that, of course, is important on itself, because it can deliver a lot of light energy at a point, and it could be seen very far. It could light up targets extremely far away. But where I came involved with the project was to turn it into a weapon, and that's what I was doing. And we were going to do that a couple different ways. The first way was we were going to modulate the light to cause an epileptic seizure.
God.
Okay, because you can do that with people. You can modulate light at them, and they'll zone out, and they'll fall down and have an epileptic seizure. But I found out that you can only do that. So I was busy trying to find the frequency, because I know there's a frequency out there that does this to people, and that was one of the things I was trying to get. But the problem with that is that different people have different frequencies. So we were going to try to have it scan a range of frequencies to try to screw up all the people. And but I realized that we were only able to get about 30% of the people. Only 30% of the population is susceptible to this sort of thing. So right away, that's not a very good weapon. But then I came up with this other idea that was really dastardly, that basically took the plasma and resonated the plasma at an ultra-high speed frequency and to produce sound waves, essentially to produce sound waves. And ultra high frequency sound waves would be capable of breaking crystal. And I figured that if I could get the frequency high enough, I could probably get this thing to shatter steel. So you can see where this is going. Yeah. And I had this. I didn't tell anybody about this. This is one of my funny stories, but I never really told anybody about it, because I just sort of developed this concept out of nowhere. And then this guy comes over to take me out to lunch, and he's this old Jewish guy, and he's one of my customers. He had one of my lasers on his gun, and he wanted me to repair his laser. And then he wants to take me out to lunch for some delicatessen to have lunch. And then after lunch, he's saying, "Oh, there's only two types of people in the world that are truly genius: the Germans and the Jews." And I'm like, what, did somebody tell you I was German or something? I mean, what's up with that? Yeah, exactly. This is what he's telling me. And then we get back to my shop, and, I'm feeling good. And I pull out the plasma beam, right? And I said, "Hey, check this out." And I turn it on. And, of course, it's very impressive. Just as a flashlight, it's very impressive. And then I told him my theory. And I said, I got this theory that I think I can resonate the la 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 and be la 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 and do this and I said I think I can get this thing to where I could get it to take out a tank or a helicopter or something like that. And he says, "Oh wow, holy shit!" And the next day, I get a fax. I come to work. There's a fax sitting there waiting for me from Israel, from the Israeli military industries, and they're all, "We'd like to buy a plasma beam from you."
Unbelievable.
Yeah, no shit. Needless to say, I did not sell them a plasma beam.
Yeah, good man. Christ.
So, anyway.
I find that hilarious that he says there's only two geniuses, Germans and Jews. Yeah, Germans maybe, but I'm not buying
German Jews.
Yeah, considering they
stolen. My name's Kelly. I'm thinking, dude, my name's Kelly. Who? What are you talking about? It's like
Gaelic, Irish.
Well, no, I'm half German. Okay, I'm half German, half Irish.
Well, yeah, because of the links between the two. Yeah, excellent.
I mean, Dad was Irish, Mom was German.
Oh, so you're 50% of both of the most genius people, the Druids and the Germans. Then
most hated people too. Oh my God! In the UK, if you're in the UK, there's one thing they hate in the UK. It's the Germans and the Irish. If you're German Irish, they really hate you.
Well, kind of, yeah, but not really.
Come on, or what's worse, Scotsmen or Irish? What do they hate more?
Well, no, idiots hate Germans and hate Irish, but anyone who knows anything loves them because.
Well, you're right, but I'm just saying I'm dealing with these waspy people. If you can imagine, like for instance, Templars. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Templars are extremely.
Touchy.
British blue blood is a little stuck up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, big time.
And it's weird because what's the difference between British blue blood and German blue blood? There's lots of German blue blood.
Nothing
isn't the house
really
German anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's Saxe Coburg Gotha and all that. They're all that. I mean, what's his name? Edward or whatever. He couldn't even speak English. He had to learn English when he was king. Because the public were like, we don't understand this guy. Why he's a German? Well, so he quickly had to learn pidgin English to communicate. It's ridiculous. Like people
are you guys having fun? I got to go on my rant here, right? I got to do my rant hardcore. I know we're having too much fun and we could just keep doing this, but I think the listeners might just be disappointed if I don't do my rant thing. I don't know. What do you think? Listeners, well, I don't know. I don't know if you guys are gonna have to tune you out. I mean, all right, Lucas, you came in the last time before. Graham, you're probably ready for bed, right?
Yeah, I'm getting pretty tired. It's 3 a.m. here.
Well, all right, I better let you go to sleep then. All right. Now, but the rest of you here, Dave.
All right. Well, thank you, Graham. I'll have to join you again soon.
Since your show's over, Richard, I got to turn off your recording, Richard. Oh, my God. Okay, Richard, do your sign off. I'll turn off your recording, okay?
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you again next week. Until then, transcend the construct. Regards.